Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Wake and Bake podcast. My name is Corinne Tobias and I'm one of your co-hosts on this show. And I wanted to stop in really quick and say hello. And I also wanted to say thank you for joining us here today on our very first episode. Now, if you've been following my work on Wake and Bake for a while, I've been doing that for about 10 years on the blog and making some cookbooks and those kinds of things. So if you've been following for a while and you're kind of like, what is this? What's going on? Where has she been? I actually have written an update blog post, so feel free to go and check that out. But this show is actually a dual effort. My colleague at the Cannabis Coaching Institute and I, Andrea Meharg, got together and we decided that we were going to start recording our nerdy conversations about cannabis. So we created this podcast to share the science and stories behind healing in cannabis. We're really excited to share all of this with you. I know that cannabis has changed my own life. It changed Andrea's life. And I'm sure if you're here listening, it's either changed your life in some way or you want it to, and you're curious about how it actually works. Now, we're going to dive into some really nerdy stuff. Actually, the first episode of this podcast that Andrea and I recorded was so nerdy that we had to go back, and we decided to start out with something a little more simple and a little more personal for us and share what are the things that we wish we would have known about cannabis when we first got started. So that's what today's podcast episode is about. It's about the things that we wish we would have known when we first started. We wish we would have known that the munchies didn't have to happen, or that cannabis wasn't this super crazy addictive drug. This ended up being a really fun episode, and so if you're new to cannabis, this is going to be really helpful to you, we hope. And if you're not new to cannabis, if you've been around for a while, we still hope that you learned something from this. We actually asked a bunch of people what the things were that they wish they knew, and some of them were like, oh yeah, that would have been really nice to know at the time, or oh dang, I didn't even know that until right now. So I'm really excited to share this with you today. I know Andrea is very excited as well. But before we get started, I want to share with you a few sponsors who are keeping this information free and available to the public. Do you have a dream to put on cannabis workshops, start a cannabis growing or cooking YouTube channel, write articles about cannabis? Maybe you even want to start a podcast of your own. And maybe, just maybe, you would like to make this your job. Get paid to talk and write about cannabis. If that's something that you're interested in, the Certified Cannabis Educator program might be just what you're looking for. In as little as 12 weeks, which is just 3 months, you'll be fully trained and certified as a cannabis educator. That's right. In just 3 months, you'll have everything you need to start getting paid to talk and write about cannabis. In this one-of-a-kind program, you not only get a world-class cannabis education, you not only get certified, but you'll also get the support and guidance from people who have actually done this work. I'm talking me, Andrea Meharg, we've got Danielle Simone Brand. There are people who have actually made a living doing this as a job. So it's not just going to be theory. We're actually going to show you how to create your first workshop, your first article, video, or podcast. And we're going to give you feedback on that so that you know exactly what you need to do to start making money to talk and write about cannabis. You're going to be building your audience as you go through the program. So you'll leave the program with momentum. You'll be able to actually get started. This is exactly what Andrea and I wanted when we first got started doing this work. And so we've created it and we're giving it to you. So if you're interested in doing this, if you're hearing Andrea and I talk today and you're like, those ladies do this for a job, I'd like to do that. Go check out the Cannabis Coaching Institute at www.cannabiscoachinginstitute.com. This is the very first episode of Wake and Bake, a podcast. We are so excited to have you here with us. Now, this isn't the first episode of the podcast that we recorded. When we started recording, Andrea and I got together and we got really nerdy really quick. We recorded an entire podcast about hemp-derived THC and realized pretty quickly that jumping in that deeply, that quickly was probably not the best idea. We really wanted to make sure that everyone had a foundation for what we're going to be sharing in the next few months and years. So when we thought about what our first podcast episode should probably be, we realized that we wanted to share the things that we've learned since we started using cannabis, the things that we really wish, if we could turn back time, that we would have known about cannabis. We also went on the streets and we asked some of you to share what your lessons have been since you started using cannabis. Now, our hope with this first episode is that we can all get together and start sharing and start talking about these things, because when we think about education, when we think about moving this whole movement forward, it's really important for us to share our experiences, to share what we've learned. And also, there's just something about that hindsight of experience that is so helpful in saying, hey, I know you're new to this, but it doesn't have to be that way, or it can be like this without overwhelming someone. So we're going to dive in, but I believe that we need to probably introduce ourselves. Don't you think so, Andrea?
Probably a good idea.
Probably a good idea. Andrea Meharg is my favorite weed nerd on the face of the planet. Andrea, can you tell me how you got into cannabis as a profession and what your personal story with cannabis is?
Yeah, cannabis helped me get through a really life altering depression that I didn't know that I could suffer from. And I had tried all the conventional methods to get better. And it was actually my mom who gave me a bag of cannabis and said, this might help. And it changed everything for me. So I come to this plant as a patient first, knowing how powerful it is. But as soon as I figured that out, I needed to help the whole world as a teacher and educator for the past almost 20 years. As soon as I learned this, I was like, oh my God, people need to know this. So I trained at the Cannabis Coaching Institute to become a certified cannabis coach and educator. And then I started teaching cannabis science over at the same place. I also do curriculum development where I'm teaching doctors how to talk about this plant and use this plant with their patients. And in my personal life, I am the mom of two of the most wonderful kids in the world.
I mean, you can leave
I
out the part where you're proudly Canadian. No,
no, that fuck that. No, I am a proud Canadian. I live in a little tiny rural town in Ontario, and I am a lifelong student and book nerd. I have a stupid amount of books just on cannabis science. I also really love animals. We have a shit ton of them at our house, including our newest one, which is a hedgehog. And I love gardening and cooking and baking and cannabis. It's like fully infused into my life. But the reason that I got so excited about this plant in the first place was by learning from Corinne over at her awesome blog, Wake and Bake. So, Corinne, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your journey into this space?
I didn't realize like how different my life is until you asked me that question, when I was like, how did I get into it? And I started thinking about like how much pain and how much suffering I was in at the time. And I was on a lot of prescription medications. I was in a ton of pain. I was like drinking an incredible amount of alcohol. So I was just in this really dark place and was just trying to get through it and knew nothing but the medical system. So I was told by doctors that I wouldn't be walking by the time I was 30. I had degenerative disc disease and scoliosis. And so I was always in my back, always in so much pain. And the first time that I realized what cannabis could do, my neighbor down the hall was the first time that anyone had told me like cannabis is good for you. It's actually medicine. And before that, I had just heard this conversation like it's like alcohol, or it's not that bad, it shouldn't be illegal. But it was the first time that somebody was like, here, this is going to help you. Just don't use as much of it as you have been, because I had been using cannabis recreationally and was using so much of it in order to try to get pain relief that it would overshoot it, which we'll talk about in a minute. I was able to get off my prescription drugs within 2 weeks. I started doing yoga. I started walking. I lost 30 pounds. And I was like, there's something to this. But I still had no idea how it worked. There was no science that I had access to at the time. That was back in 2006, I think. And then I started a health and wellness career because I wanted, like you, when I started getting healthier, I was like, oh my gosh, it's possible. If someone like me can do it, because I thought I was like lazy and broken and sick, then anyone can do this. Like they can improve at least. And so I had no idea how cannabis was going to play a role into that. And when I got into the health and wellness industry, specifically when I started teaching yoga, there was so much vilification of cannabis. It was like, this is going to dim you down. It's just a placebo. It spaces you out. It makes it so that you're not present. And so I was instantly like, wait a second. These things go together. Why are they not going together in this community? But it took me a while to really integrate both of those things. And in 2013, I wrote my first cannabis cookbook. wake and bake, which I just thought was the cutest thing. So I had to do it. I was like, this is going to be fun. I'm going to write jokes and I'm going to share how to make affordable medicine. And then it just took off from there. So almost as soon as I wrote Wake and Bake, people started asking me all these questions about cannabis and health. And I was like, whoa, I'm going to have to learn everything that I possibly can so that I can help people. And that turned into becoming trained as a certified health coach and incorporating cannabis into that. And really, the whole goal was just to bring cannabis into the wellness space and let them know that they're friends with each other in the beginning. And then we started the Cannabis Coaching Institute. We trained hundreds of coaches in cannabis, and I've written several books and have a blog called Wake and Bake. And now we have a podcast. And like when I think back to what was that? Like 15 years ago, I can't believe how many people we've been able to touch and how many lives have been improved just from sharing the information about this plant.
Yeah, you have taken everything that you have learned and tried to educate as much as possible. Sometimes we call Corinne the unicorn brain person because when she sees a problem, she creates a solution so that she can help people with it. But you have a personal life too, right there, lady? What's going on there?
Yeah, I have a beautiful 6-year-old daughter. I live in rural Colorado. I live in a town that's smaller than yours. I live in a town of 300. I've got 2 kitties. I play the ukulele and I love farming. And it's such a good mix because, you know, all the plants, they all go together. So that's awesome. What I do in my spare time.
Before we dive into what we wish we would have known before we started, we took like a poll by asking people out in the world what they wish they would have known before they started with the plant. And we got some really fascinating, wide-ranging answers that we want to share with you. We're going to start with Evan. He said, I think I was just extremely paranoid, thinking that it might make me use harder drugs. The internet had just become accessible and we had DARE conditioning. And we had that in Canada too. We didn't have the DARE program itself, but we definitely watched a lot of like American programs where they told us that this was the devil's lettuce and it was going to lead to all these much more dangerous drugs as soon as you smoked weed.
Yeah. Do you guys have the brain on drugs commercial with the eggs? Yeah. Oh, your brain. This is your brain on drugs. What's so interesting in studying this, and I think this is what's great about Evan sharing this piece, is now we know it's a gateway drug off of those things, that it, as an exit drug, that we're seeing a lot of really good results with it. So it's so funny how untrue that one was and how we lived so much of our lives and we came into adulthood having to question that and reorganize our information in a way that's factual. All right. So LM said, I wish I would have known there were different types for different reasons. And we heard this one a lot. I remember a family member of mine saying, I don't like that creeper weed. It just creeps up on you and knocks you out. And then you're on the couch with the munchies. And the same family member was like, but that Acapulco gold, like when you got that, there was like this rudimentary understanding that some were a little bit different. But no, I had no idea. And I didn't have access to much. When you don't have that much access, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. You know, you're just like, you just have what you have access to. This one comes from Colette. She said she wishes she would have known how powerful and life-changing it is when used in a meditation practice. And I absolutely agree with Colette on this. Andrea and I, you and I were just talking about how cool it is that when you use cannabis with a different intention, especially in a meditation practice, like how different the effects are and how life-changing those effects can be, aside from symptom reduction and balancing your endocannabinoid system, which are amazing things. Utilizing it in a meditation practice is something that I really wish that I would have known how powerful that was. And I wish it was spoken to. Like I said, when I was training to be a yoga teacher, they were like, nope, not beneficial at all. Totally going to take you out of your body and increase your Maya and all this stuff. Like instead of, holy cow, when you combine these two things, when you combine mindfulness and cannabis, like your whole system changes. It's awesome.
I've seen how much you love that. Next up on the list is, I wish I would have known about some of the toxic growing practices. I didn't get into organic for many years. And as you learn more about how the cannabis plant works specifically, learning about how it is grown and where it is grown becomes much more important. So I concur 100% with this one.
That's why I love lab testing so much. They worked in a lot of places where they're like, we're growing organic cannabis. And then you would see things that were like banned for any use of human consumption plants. And they're just like, we're just going to put a little bit of this in there. And cannabis is a bioaccumulator. It just sucks all of that stuff up and then you're consuming it. I wish I would have known how valuable lab tests were, because I think at the time in the beginning as a farmer, I was like, oh my God, they're being so nitpicky. But lab tests are super important. I think they're one of the most important tools that we have as cannabis consumers to make sure that you aren't consuming that stuff. And they can get better. I think that there's a lot of problems with lab testing, but man, it's super important that your cannabis is organic.
Next up is from N, and they said, I wish I would have known that being super high to the point of paranoia was not just part of the experience, that I could have enjoyed it without that part. It has been so long since I've been high to the point of paranoia, but I know for you, you take super low doses of THC because too much THC, like you hate that.
Yeah. I've always been super sensitive, but after being diagnosed with PTSD, like there was something, not just the diagnosis, but after that process, there was something that was different in my nervous system where even small amounts would maybe go like hypervigilance would just be like completely take over, which is why I think we should be really cautious when talking about things like THC and cannabis for PTSD, because it's not necessarily the same as you would use it otherwise. So I think that this is a really great insight. I wish I would have known that being super high to the point of paranoia wasn't part of the experience as well. But I also believe that there are tools and there are ways of utilizing cannabis that don't bring that on. And we should all know about that stuff.
And this next one is related from NL. Always have CBD on hand in case of too much THC. Yeah, that was new to me that I found out too late into my journey.
And then this one comes from Danielle Simone Brand, who wrote Weed Mom. She said, I wish I had known more in the beginning about the social impact of cannabis prohibition and the drug war, as well as to help grow the parts of the industry like craft, equity brands, etc., that I want to see succeed the most. I think what I love about Danielle's input on this is that we have a way to impact this. Like it's easy for us to look. I see smoke signals right behind you. If you read a book like Smoke Signals and you're like, oh my God, this was fucked. Like how this all happened is completely fucked. And what Danielle is saying is like, yeah, this was fucked. We all need to know that this was like not cool, but look at all these ways that we can support these different parts of the industry that we want to see grow. I think it's really cool to see how many different people had different insights that they wish they would have known when they first started using cannabis. And this is why you and I became cannabis coaches and cannabis educators, is because we want to make sure that people knew this stuff from the get-go. And the reason that we're having this episode is so that we can all share. When you leave this episode, you're like, oh yeah, I wish I would have known that. Or I want to share that with my cousin who is just experimenting with CBD or something right now. So I want to dive in. Andrea, I'm so excited to hear what your insights have been since utilizing cannabis, because you're so well informed, you're so well educated, you're such a nerd. Look at all those books behind you. To boil it down to, let's say, 3 things that you wish you would have known about cannabis when you first started.
My first one is tolerance. I didn't understand when I first started consuming cannabis, THC, that you can build a tolerance to the effects of the plant. And I just, as a person, am somebody who likes to be like, if a little bit helps, then a lot will help like a lot. And so I very quickly developed a pretty high tolerance to THC that I literally battle because I just love how THC makes me feel. So I refuse to take a tolerance break. Actually, it's probably not even true. Even if I would have known about tolerance from the very beginning, I probably would have still been like, oh, I won't get that, and then just moved on. But I think I would have had maybe a different relationship with THC had I known that I was going to be here several years later as somebody who has extremely high tolerance. So that's my first one, just because I battle it every day, because I'm like, today will be the day I take a tolerance break.
I love that you say that, because I obviously don't have a tolerance. And I took a tolerance break after making my 3rd cookbook because I needed one. And then I was never able to step it back up again and had to navigate that. And I remember there was this point where I was like, oh my gosh, can I even be in the cannabis industry? I can't smoke a blunt. Like I might as well just quit. And so I'm like, you have the street cred. If you and I were sitting in an industry function, everyone else can hang, and then I would be like, oh, okay, don't do it. There's part of me that's jealous about your tolerance.
I am obviously like super cool because I can smoke joints. There we go. A lifelong dream achieved. Okay. Second, though, and this is related, is I wish I would have known when I first started how easy it is to grow. And I want to talk about this from the experience of if you can grow other plants, specifically outside vegetables, if you can grow tomatoes, if you can grow green peppers, if you can grow freaking beans, you can grow weed for sure. And you don't need to have all of the things that you hear about out there, like special newts and I don't know, light cycles and all of that stuff in order to be able to grow huge, enormous monster plants. I grow outside mostly with compost and like alpaca poop and rabbit poop. And I have a 10-foot monster outside. So that's freaking awesome because then I have enough cannabis to smoke all the joints that I want because my tolerance is really high. The flip side of that is that then you're in trimming hell for the rest of your life when you have 10-foot plants. And also, in case you have seen me try to grow cannabis inside on my YouTube channel, I do not profess that I have figured that shit out. I am not good at it.
No, that's what you're talking about is like when you need the newts and the lights and all that stuff, like when you have to play the sun and the soil and you have to be literally Mother Nature, then it's complicated for sure. But like plants love it outside in the soil.
Okay, and number 3 for me is you could have never told me 5 years ago that I was going to like science at all because I wasn't a science person. I dropped out of science in grade 10 and that was like it was dead to me. But once I learned from Corinne about why cannabis works in my body, I like fell down the cannabis science rabbit hole and I can't get back out. Like, I don't want to, but I also can't. That was really surprising to me. And it's been so interesting teaching students at the Coaching Institute who have the same experience. I didn't think I was going to be a nerd. And here I am, like reading scientific studies or reading all these books about this plant. Yeah, I would have loved to see the look on my face if I would have been like, oh, you're going to teach cannabis science and want to take cannabis science classes and stuff. No, that would have never flown.
That's so surprising to me. I didn't know that you weren't a nerd and that you didn't know that you were going to geek out so hard. Andrea, for those of you who don't know, when Andrea was a student at CCI, she was basically like, more science, please. Can you give us more science? Can I have some more science, please? And we're like, dude, if you want more science, get more science. And then she came back and she's like, okay, I have all the science. Can I teach all of you all the science? And we were like, okay, enough of science. My goodness. But it's incredible. I know it's one of those things, one of those rabbit holes that because it's one of the most dynamic plant medicines on the face of the planet, and because you can get it, you can go at it from every different angle, from cooking and processing, from growing, how it works in the human body, like what the implications of that are, genetics, breeding. I mean, there's so many interesting places to go. And we've seen this at CCI, is like people get interested in their own little nooks and become these little masters of these niches, and they are able to bring the science into it and really give that a lot of meaning for people. So when they go out into the world as educators, even if they're teaching growing or cooking or whatever it is, they're like, all right, everybody, let's share this information. Let's make this really fun and cool. So I like to think that like we make cool weed nerds.
Okay, what about you? What do you wish you would have known? What are your top 3?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about my first one, which is that I wish I would have known that a little goes a long way. You were like, I wouldn't have done anything different. I would have. I was the type of cannabis user before I realized that a little goes a long way, that had like a bong in my fridge. And when I was in pain, I would just like, okay, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I would miss the mark, and then I would be completely incapacitated. I would get the munchies. Like I was already struggling with weight because the weight would impact my pain. And it was just like a lot of stuff going on. I was trying to figure out. And using small amounts, I was like, oh, just a little bit. Oh, I feel fucking good. And I feel energized. And I feel like I can approach the day and I want to be in my body and I want to walk around and have fun, as opposed to just completely sinking in. So I think coming from, I think our culture just has an overconsumptive mindset, like we were just talking about. You're like, oh, this is good, take more of it. And I was that way with supplements too. I was like, okay, we'll just take all the supplements for a while. And it didn't work. And I was always like, why doesn't this work? And again, understanding the science behind it, the stuff that you teach in CCEP, I was like, duh, of course that's why it works that way, because we have this endocannabinoid system and it's elegant and you don't need that much. I just didn't know anything. Nobody knew anything. And so like there was no, you were just figuring it out on your own. You were just exploring it. And I think it just took a while for me to get there because the culture around cannabis, especially back then when I was growing up, was like either you don't do it because it'll make you a bad kid, or you do a shit ton of it because it's part of your whole thing. You're a stoner kid or whatever, and you like listening to Bob Marley and you've got the tie dye and you're like in the whole culture around cannabis. And that was like, there were really only two ways to do it, it seemed like at that time. And now we've got all these like different ways to be in it. And all of those different ways seem to have a different view of consumption and those kinds of things. And then so like people who are taking it from the medical lens and they're like very specific about the ways to use it. And so I just think that I wish I would have known that not just that there are very many different types, but there are different ways of approaching the plant that have different kinds of effects.
People coming into the industry right now have access to so much more knowledge and understanding and products.
That's another part of what I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known about CBD. There was no talk of it when I first started utilizing cannabis as medicine. And when I first started teaching about cannabis, when I was making cookbooks and doing the whole thing, I remember the first time someone from Europe was like, "Hey, I've got this CBD oil for you." And I was like, "What is that?" And they sent it to me and I was like, "Oh, this tastes terrible. What is this?" And I started doing research on it. I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. It seems like it does everything. That's weird. That feels like a snake oil. That feels like somebody's standing on like a box at the side of the street being like, it's good for your anxiety and your sleep and you come buy a bottle of this CBD oil cure." And I was like, bullshit. Oh God, don't talk to me about CBD. Like I had no time for it. And this leads into my third one because I think the reason that I had no time for it is because I still didn't know how cannabis worked. I didn't understand the endocannabinoid system. So I had no idea how CBD oil could be doing the things that it's doing. And I didn't know why THC worked at all. So it was like, I was just this walking anecdote, right? I'm like, look, guys, this is awesome. My life was really bad and now it's good. And people kind of like, yeah, but you do yoga too and you're farming. I saw those things as a product of what I was able to do after cannabis, but I think it was easy just for people, especially my family, who I really wanted to help with their health, go, she's just a granola munching, whatever. And I wish I would have known about the endocannabinoid system because I would have just started there every single time. So I really just wish I would have had the context of how it works and why it works so that I would have been able to hold my ground in conversations in the wellness industry, in my family, in my community.
I think that's what it is for lots of people is that once they have a firm foundation, not just, oh, I know it's working for me, I feel better, which feels really wobbly. Once they can have a basic understanding of how and why it's working, then they can stand on this really firm foundation and shout from the rooftops, I know you don't believe me, but I have science on my side. So yeah,
Yes.
I think it's super helpful.
What we were just talking about, what Evan said about that dare reprogramming and the paranoia that just comes with utilizing cannabis. I mean, that it's not just, hey, this is why this is working. It's, hey, this is why you don't have to be afraid of this. It has a really high safety profile. We do know that it can cause some issues if you utilize it a certain way, but if you figure out a way that works for you, you can mitigate those issues because we understand how all of that works now. I think that is a huge important thing to know when you're first starting out, especially if you want to be teaching other people and sharing this, which from my experience, you can't not. Once you figure out how cannabis works for you, I've never met a human being that's like, oh yeah, it works for me and that's cool. I like it. Like, especially like maybe it's because we're in this bubble of women who like want to help other people all the time. It's just like, oh my gosh, now I've tried suppositories and I need to tell everyone about suppositories. Now I've tried this topical and I need to tell everyone about this and I have to make it for everyone in my neighborhood and I'm going to be putting it in the muffins, you know, for like whatever. So like I just think that there's that I don't know, that passion that just comes along with it once you're helped by it. It's like it starts to feel like, oh, I work for the plant now. And so I got to go do my job for the plant. So now that we've shared all this with you, shared other people's insights, we've shared our own insights, why does this matter for you? What does this mean for the consumer? If you're new to cannabis, we would love for you to take one of these nuggets of gold and apply it to your life. We hope that if you're just starting out and you come across this podcast, that you've heard something that could be helpful to you. Maybe it opens a door into a way of thinking that you had before, or maybe it's just really resonating with you. Oh, I've felt that way about cannabis, and now maybe I should question that thought and see what happens. If you're not new, we would love for you to write us and tell us what you'd wished you'd known. We love hearing from you. So whether you're new or you've been around and you want to start sharing your insights, email us at support@wakeandbake.co and let us know. If you're watching this or listening to this on another platform, if you're on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or wherever you found this, please comment below and let us know what you wish you would have known about cannabis when you first started. So thank you so much for being with us for the first episode of the podcast. Make sure you subscribe, because the Wake and Bake podcast will be dedicated to sharing information and science about cannabis that you will not hear anywhere else. We're going to be having those conversations that people are not having in a public sphere, and we cannot wait for you to join us.